Oh dear. This is quite the read. We all know the Detroit Red Wings have been kind of blowing it the past few weeks here. Their January was pretty strong. But now, ever since the Ides of March, the Detroit Red Wings have been losing games, Patrick Kane is selling games, and now this Red Wings team is no longer projected to making the Stanley Cup playoffs. They had a 12-point lead back at the end of January. Now, they're 2 points back of the last wildcard, in a pretty stacked wildcard race. Make no mistake about it, the Red Wings are choking. And with that said, we have ourselves some very, very interesting opinions being shared by folks who patrol the internet, asking whether or not a change of scenery is needed for this team. I'm going to leave a link in the description, not because I think this is an amazing read, but because I do think this is a conversation-starting read on the R Detroit Red Wings subreddit. Because this post made earlier in the night, earlier this morning, goes out there and discusses the idea of a new plan. Now, buyer beware. Let's just establish right here this Reddit post. If y'all read it through and you follow every single idea that is mentioned, you might start to get a little bit pissed off, and I'll just let the article explain why that is. So, Red Winged Blackbird 81 posted this yesterday, or earlier this morning, excuse me. I thought it was a really interesting conversation starter, so let's dive into it here. They say on the Red Wings sub, let's be honest, the plan of relying almost entirely on draft picks and prospects and a few 30-something-year-old past their prime veterans is a failure for the Detroit Red Wings. Or, at the very least, it's not producing anywhere near the results it was intended to. Yes, the Red Wings have improved over the last 8 years, but most other teams and their GMs have improved more and faster. The Wings would have been eliminated from playoff contention weeks ago if not for Gibson stealing multiple games and the Wings getting extremely lucky having the least injuries of any team. In 8 years of building through the draft, they have only 2 picks that have become good. Not great or stars NHL players. In Seider and Raymond. Edvinsson may become a good defensive defenseman but doesn't produce much. The others, like Bronseg Newgard, Mazur, Sandin Pellikka, Danielson, will never be more than average NHL players at best. Now, this right here. These are fighting words, my friends. Let's continue with the rest of the thing first before addressing each of these ideas. They write that most of the prospects that we keep hearing about will be career AHLers or average NHLers at best, hence why many are left in the minors to quote-unquote develop for so long. And the ones that made it to the Wings roster would not crack the roster of many other teams. Even Kosa is an unknown because he's had virtually no NHL time. In contrast, Jesper Wallstedt is already getting more NHL play time and experience. And before anyone mentioned the Griffins, there's a big difference between being good in the AHL and being good in the NHL. Hence the huge difference in AHL versus NHL stats with players like Bronseg Newgard and Nate Danielson. Given how many prospects have panned out over Yzerman's tenure, it would seem mathematically impossible to get good enough picks and prospects together in their prime to form a competitive NHL team, let alone a contender. Not with mid-picks. By the time Yzerman gets the final pieces in place, it'll be time to replace the first and second pieces, LOL. Steve Yzerman has built a team that is not good enough to make the playoffs without a lot of luck, but not quite bad enough to get good picks they would need to build through the draft. I'm not saying Yzerman should be fired, because I'm not sure there's a better replacement available, but the plan needs to change. You can't keep doing the same thing every year and expecting different results. Now, this is a very opinionated piece, and this specific second paragraph is quite the ruckus causer, at least according to some of the comments in the comment section, going out there and saying that the Red Wings do not have any great or star NHL draft picks, and that Seider and Raymond are just good, quote-unquote, is quite the take. Honestly, I can subscribe to the idea that Lucas Raymond is not a top-tier superstar caliber player. He's no Nikita Kucherov, he's no Mitch Marner, although we have seen in certain instances Raymond can play up to that level. Over the course of 82, though, maybe not yet. But Moritz Seider, I gotta go out there and disagree. This guy is one of the best defensemen in the league, man. I don't know what you're watching if you're going out there and saying that Seider is just good. Top Comment even goes out there and says this: Seider is one of the best defensemen in the entire league this year, and Raymond, who is basically at a point per game, and the best player from his draft class are good, not great, or stars? Interesting take. Now, for me personally, if you say Raymond is a great player, yeah. Is he a franchise-altering superstar? Maybe you give him another year, and then it's a lot easier to definitively say that, but yeah, semantics, isn't it? It's one thing to say they're not superstars, yeah, fair enough, but to say they're not even great or star players is just ridiculous. LOL. Now, let's actually continue with the rest of this body of text here, because I think just focusing on the semantics of labeling some players as good or great or franchise-altering or whatever kind of misses the point. Essentially, what this user is saying is that Yzerman's plan of consistently trying to build through the draft and waiting for these guys to come in and make an impact is taking too damn long. And it also compiles with the fact that these players just aren't top-tier guys, period. Seider, okay, you could say he is a top-tier guy. Raymond, you could even debate he's in that conversation too. But outside of those guys and Simon Edvinsson, who is admittedly more of a defensive defenseman, the Red Wings have not been able to draft and develop the top-tier talent needed to become a playoff contender. They traded for Alex DeBrincat, who's helping them out in that department. They had Dylan Larkin, who of course is their franchise center. But when it comes to the rest of the team, the meat around the bone, I do think there are some elements of this roster that can be shaken up, and changing the direction of where to focus your assets, whether it's instead of using your 10th or 11th or 12th overall pick, you're trading it for an NHL player that can actually help you out now, not signing an Andrew Kopp, signing a JT Compher, but actually trading for a guy that can help you like a Robert Thomas. Not a top-tier superstar, but a very darn good top 6 caliber option. He's a guy that can do that. He's a guy that can be that. And I do think that just the focus of what Yzerman has been putting on this team is going to reflect a little bit differently as the years go on. Some of these other replies are going out there and just talking about the semantics of whether or not players are good or great or star players or whatever. Take a look at what this comment says. To be fair, plans don't really mean much when you don't have the players. We have some world-class talent, but no one to defend or stick up for them. No brawlers, no tough guys, no one you would bet to win fights on Kalshi. No enforcement to get the momentum back on your side of the ice. I think some grit is in order if the Red Wings want to make the playoffs and not lose in a first-round sweep. And I do think that that's also an element of it as well. Seider can be a mean machine. But other than that, I mean, the amount of guys that really go out there and put some significant effort out on the ice, you start to notice when the games get tough how some of these guys disappear. And you don't want that. You want to see the opposite. When the going gets tough, the guys step up. When the going gets rough, they get rougher. That's what you would ideally like to see. It's why a guy like Emmett Finney is so beloved at this point, even though he's not scoring as much, because that guy's a dog. He tries. You just want to see some of these guys try. And you could even say that's an element of Lucas Raymond's game that you could ask for improvement on. So I see where they're coming from on that respect. But with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below whether or not this Reddit post actually makes any sense. Do you think there is a new plan that the Red Wings should explore? And what do you think that is? What direction should Stevie Y and this team go down? If it were up to you, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.